Thank you very much. So first on the list, no idea which country you come from, but your surname says English.
Okay, I'm not quite used to using, I'm going to be glasses on, glasses off. So my name is Juliet English. I am from the UK, but originally from South Africa. And I've been living in the UK for 17 years, home educating for 26. So I have been following things here in the UK. So the most important thing to know is that in the 4 nations that make up the UK, Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland, and England, home education is legal, and the law is similar. There are a few minor differences. The law basically states that education is the responsibility or the duty of the parent to provide a suitable education according to the age, aptitude, and ability of the child, either by school or otherwise. So we choose otherwise. Children in schools have to deregister, and so they are known to the local authority at that point, and the local authority is then required to follow up. If children have never been in school, they don't have to notify the local authority. So, or if they've moved schools, so say for instance they finish primary school and they come out of primary school and they don't go back into secondary, they don't have to notify the local authority. The local authority has the statutory duty to identify children not in receipt of a suitable education, whatever that means. And they may make informal inquiries. So often somebody might report that you are home educating, and then they will follow up. So it's actually a very tiny minority that will not be known to the local authority. So even though we don't have a registration in this country, most home educators are actually known to their local authority. And the law as it stands has maintained a very elegant balance between parent and state. The current legislation preserves that balance, but the parent has the duty to provide education by whatever means. And there is sufficient protective scaffolding in place to ensure that children receive a suitable education and are safeguarded. So that there is enough. All the normal methods of reporting, if something is wrong, they exist, regardless of whether the child is home educated or not. So many previous attempts we've seen since 2009 by different political parties and individual politicians who are trying to make a name for themselves. They want to bring in more intrusive legislation that would change the balance of power in the favor of the states. And we've really managed to avoid any drastic changes by, I don't know, I think sometimes just by the grace of God, just changes of parliament, or changes of government, or a certain prime minister, very short-lived, throws the bill out, and that's worked in our favor, which has been really good. But many of our local authorities are taking advantage of the trust and the naivete of new home educating parents. And they attempt to sneak in unlawful requests or demands. They ask more than the parent is legally obliged to provide. The Department for Education is also trying to change the non-statutory guidance. So the local authorities are informed by the guidance and trying to change it to support more interference by local authorities and more legal challenges. The new government that came in just on the 4th of July, Labour, would like to introduce VAT on independent school fees, which could potentially impact home education by driving up the numbers. Introduce 30 hours of free childcare from 9 months old, which serves to separate children from their parents and institutionalize them. They want to introduce a children not in school register. They want to assign all children a unique identifying number. So this is all in their manifesto. And they want to use this number to track and share data between health, education, children's social care, and the police or youth offending services. We have our work cut out for us to push back on all of this. So our battle is far from over, and that is where we are right now. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Mateja. I come from Slovenia. I also have a presentation, but it's not mine here. So I can also just talk out of my head. This is also possible. So, home education. As it coming? Okay, super. Home education in Slovenia is legal and um, is legal, and it was included in the law as a parental right 1996, when just this is just a few years after when Yugoslavia fell apart and Slovenia became independent, and inclusion of home education in the law was part of the democratization process. So parents got more power on deciding about their own lives, and also, of course, about education for their children. But 10 years after the inclusion of home education in the law, there were still no home educators, and only, yes. Oh, no, it's not that one. This is for the other. Um, no, this is not okay. I will just speak. So no, but this is for the other presentation that I have next door. So well, I will just talk out of my head. Where was I? Oh, okay. The law demands from the parents to enroll their children in one of the public schools, and children have to take exams at the end of the year from several subjects. Not all of the subjects till this year, because the law was this year in February, I think it was, or a little bit, yeah, February, was changed. And the children, they will have to take exams from all the subjects at the end of the school year. And that means that, for instance, 6-year-olds in the first grade, they will have to pass 6 exams. And like 15 at the end, in the last class of grade of primary school, children will have to take 14, 15 exams, and within a period of 1 month or 1.5 months. So this is a huge stress, and if children do not pass exams, they have one chance at the end of the summer in August to repeat the test, and if they are not successful, they have to go back to school. So this is, I think, very difficult situation for children and for parents, and I am in a way curious how also schools will perform that. You know, how schools will carry out so many exams for home educating for children who are home educated. We also conducted in research home educating parents. So we did it alone with no experts because all of the experts in Slovenia are against home education, and this research showed that I think that the number of home educated children will be half less. So the half of the parents will send their children back to school because this stress is too big. So this is what's new in Slovenia. I think. Yeah, that's all. So have a nice session. I have to go on.
Okay, so I think my presentation is not the right one. So I will start speaking, but if the presentation appears here, I will see what I do. Silvia Copio. Yeah, okay, thank you. So I am from Portugal. This great country where is still allowed, and hopefully more free in some years. to do homeschooling. We have, as many countries have, this constitutional protection that says that parents have the right to educate. We have also a main law that was published in the 80s that say very clear that home education is that one that is made by a family member or someone that lives with a family. And because of that, no government can change at least the legality of having homeschooling there. Well, that's what we hope. But in 4 years, we are living with a new kind of regulation. So we have, even before that, we have the legal possibility. Yeah, but can you go to? I will let you know when to stop. I have. No, I'm crazy. That's why I do homeschooling. So this is the wrong. Okay, that's why I'm passing, because I. Okay. No. Okay. I just want to have pictures here because it's so much nicer to see with our eyes how homeschooling works all over the world. And when you see these kind of pictures, I don't know, I think we can relate and see, okay, when I see pictures from Italy, I say, look, my meetings are almost the same, etc., etc. So that's what I want from here. But, well, so we have the legality of doing homeschooling in Portugal since 1946. We are winning the ranking of, now Ireland is even more than us, yeah. And Switzerland? No, Debbie. I'm sorry. We have this huge, very good environment in our European committee, so I no longer can be formal when I'm doing these things. Okay, so we have this. However, during the last 4 years, we are living with a new regulation, and that's what I want to highlight here in some slide that I hope I have here. No, I don't. Never mind. I have the pictures. That's what I want. So right now, we need to get the permission from a public or a private school. That's something that we believe that is not allowing homeschool per se, okay? We need to follow the mandatory curriculum that is only one with contents that sometimes don't respect the values that the family wants to bring to education. We need to have a university degree. Sorry. And most of the times it's not on our law, but the government is saying that the university degree has to be recognized. So that is making lots of foreign people having troubles getting the permission to do it. However, no, not yet. And more bad things is we have to do exams at the end of the 4th, 6th, 9th, 11 and 12. And here I believe I will win because we need to do 14 written exams in 2 weeks, 1 hour and a half each. Sometimes our kids live at school during these 2 weeks. Okay, so that's the legal reality. Look, this is what we don't like. We don't feel that we are being protected by our government to be allowed to do this in a legal way. But what is really, really, really beautiful in Portugal is seeing the amount of families that are living there. We are receiving families from Germany, Spain, probably from France. I'm joking again. I hope not. Just because of this reason, because we can welcome everyone. Because in a way we have these restrictions, but in another way we have another kind of laws that, with the help of a lawyer, we can find a way to do homeschooling in Portugal in a legal way. You just have to know how, and sometimes we need to see case by case, and that's why I will end it saying that we have, sorry, I will win again, the best national organization. I'm sorry, okay. Please go and visit me because I really want to promote. We have the best lawyer, And so we are doing this great job, making people feel that they are doing it with freedom and honing for us, for the leaders, the strength to see, okay, we are free, but we need more freedom than what we already have. So make questions, because I want to promote more Portugal. It's a wonderful country. Thank you.
This is Erika Di Martino. I don't know if you have the slides, but we'll see. Anyway, as the founder, hello everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy you're all here. As the founder of the Italian Home Education Network, Edupar, and a home educator, mother of 5, I have witnessed a remarkable evolution of home education in Italy for over 15 years. Home education in Italy is a legal and recognized educational path. It's in our constitution, guys. And it does, though, remain a minority choice. Traditional schooling has deep cultural roots. In fact, they say, la scuola dell'obbligo, school is mandatory. It's not true. It's education, that is, but that's what people repeat over and over and over. But the winds of change, they're blowing, especially after global events like the pandemic. Italian parents frequently voice concerns about the state of education in Italy, and they emphasize issues like overcrowded classrooms and standardized curricula, but only some are aware that home education is a thing, and it offers a unique opportunity to change this landscape as we know it. Let's see. Parents in Italy must annually notify school authorities of their intent to home educate, so we do have a register, accompanied by a self-certification of their technical and economic capacity to provide home education. What does this mean? Technical capacity refers to those who are guiding the child's education. It doesn't have to be the parents. Offering parents flexibility. Economic, and it lacks specific guidelines. So unlike Portugal, we don't have to have a university degree or something like that. Economic capacity pertains to financial means. Yet, for privacy reasons, it's not like they're going to ask you for your tax report, right? It is rarely scrutinized. Again, this is Italy. Importantly, home education in Italy does not require parents to provide any detailed legal documentation, simplifying the process. It's a letter. In some other countries, families use distance schools to meet the needed documentation, yet in Italy, online classes do not meet the criteria for fulfilling the compulsory educational requirements. So some institutions do offer them, and some parents might, use them, but they don't align with the legal framework. In 2007, La Buona Scuola, which actually means the good school, reform, introduced a significant shift in home education regulations, necessitating families to prove the fulfillment of the education duty through annual school exams. These exams include presenting a personal curriculum and submitting a request for examination in Italian. So they force us, but we have to ask for the exam. Whatever. The exam emphasizes aligning with the Italian curriculum with varying competences required across subjects. Navigating this legal framework is crucial, especially in Italy, where bureaucratic complexities can be daunting. We know that. Yet, if a home education student fails their annual exam, the consequences are relatively mild, particularly if they do not plan to go back to school. They just continue home educating. That's fine. There's no significant disruptions. Despite bureaucratic and cultural barriers, home education is gradually gaining recognition, because before the pandemic, fewer than 5,000 children and teens were home educated, and now, yay, that number has surged to 15,000. Some home educating families have formed support groups and learning pods mirroring traditional schools, or have embraced a life of travel, and they call themselves travel schoolers. In navigating the system, parents must be aware that despite the clear legal framework, many schools and educational authorities may still view home education negatively or be unfamiliar with the process. You might knock at your local school's door and they say, oh, no, that's illegal. Whoa, really? No, it's not. It's even on the website of the Minister of Education, but they don't read it. So many families opt not to take the exam in their local state school as they fear potential bias or discomfort. However, the law allows for alternative options like charter schools known as paritario. Oh my goodness, I bought a minute from Portugal, so I have 2 minutes. Come on. So anyway, we can shh, take them away. So you want to come to Italy, not to Portugal. Anyway, local examinations So we have these charter schools called paritarie where we give a contribution for the exam and things, are much more fair. So one last thing. Yeah, there's foundations, you're not alone. There's Libera Scola and networks like Edupar because we really help and support the communities. And I'm towards the end. Our exploration of home education in Italy is incomplete without acknowledging the pivotal role of MIUR, which is the Ministry of Education in Italy, and the concept of citizenship in modern education. Because the Italian Ministry of Education has recognized that the traditional school learning is only one facet of a child's educational journey. They actually stated that. It's on paper. In Indicazioni Nazionali, which is a fundamental document that outlines the need to cultivate individuals capable of addressing contemporary challenges within complex and cultural and social framework. I just translated it the way they worded it. It's a guideline that all students have to follow, especially us in home education. These guidelines essentially promote a student-centered approach, emphasizing the individual's unique needs and growth. This is great. So we are aligned with everything. So as I close, I want to tell you that when you read such documents, it appears that home education aligns with the constitutional design of the state, acting as a catalyst in the synergic motion between the individual and the collective. So we are very, very well aligned with the Italian government and what the state has in mind for us. Thank you very much. Bye.
Tracy Torneur for the presentation. Hi everyone. My name is Tracy Torneur. I am American, but I am married to a French, and we have been living in France for the past 13 years. We have one 10-year-old son who has been born and raised in France. My family is also one of the 40% of homeschooling families in France that are currently facing the refusal of authorization to homeschool in France. The situation is so severe right now in France that just 2 days ago, my 10-year-old son was summoned and interrogated by the police as a witness against us, the parents, for our refusal to abide by registering him into a public or private school. I will share a bit more about our family, hopefully, if I have time, towards the end. So, until 2020, homeschooling was legal in France, with solely the obligation to report to the district your intent to homeschool and comply with 1 to 2 inspections per year by the Department of Education. However, in 2020, President Macron introduced the law Combat Against Separatism. This would later be changed, the title would be changed to Reinforcement of the Republican Principles. You'll see in his quote here, this law changed the recognition of homeschooling from a fundamental liberty to an exception that requires authorization and, if obtained, is valid for 1 year. As we see in this quote from President Macron, this is from when he introduced the law on October 2nd, 2020, he promotes the school of the Republic as the mold of the Republic. The objective to make all children come to the public secular school is to protect children from religion. It's important to keep in mind as we continue to examine the issues facing homeschooling in France that there is a very real ideological attitude and belief at the core. Since 2020, when this law was passed, we now have 4 motives, state-provided motives for homeschooling. Parents have to select one of these motives. They have a very lengthy request that they have to fill out and prove that they are homeschooling pertaining to these motives. Motive 4 here encompasses the majority of families that are homeschooling, the majority of families that are homeschooling by desire, by a conviction. 1, 2, and 3, you'll see, are quite convenience related. It is motive number 4 that suffers the most refusals and discrepancies. Here are some of the numbers of refusals that we are experiencing in France. I'm going to skip over that, though, and actually just highlight here the remarkable decline in requests for authorization. In 22-23, we had 60,000 requests for authorization. In 23-24, there were only 51,000 requests for authorization. In 1 year, that's about a 15% decline. And we begin to see the strategy to destroy homeschooling unfold without having had banned it all at once. Rather, it's dissolving steadily over the course of time by discouraging the families. Families are being discouraged by the extensive requirements, the lack of transparency, and the arbitrary refusals. At this rate of decline, we will very quickly arrive in France with a base minority of families who homeschool due solely to medical reasons, which is what President Macron outlined as his intention in his speech in 2020. In 2020, the justification of the struggle against separatism was already absurd. Oh, I'm getting the 1 minute. It was absurd. But we start to see that that is not really what is behind this motivation at all. It's not based on a question of separatism, but it's rather the administration's desire to substitute parental rights. In a tragic decision in 2022, the French equivalent of the Supreme Court mandated the administration to examine the respective advantages and disadvantages of educating the child, on the one hand, in an establishment, public or private, and on the other hand, in the family. And at the end of this examination, it is up to the administration to determine the method of instruction most in accordance with the child's best interest in view of his situation. So we now have France. Now, in France, we have the administration superseding the decisions of the parents, which is absolutely unacceptable as it pertains to human rights and common sense. So, I will conclude with a perfect illustration of all of these issues facing in France with our family. That in July of 2023, our family was refused authorization to homeschool under this law that was initially titled The Combat Against Separatism. My husband, Bernard, served in the French army for 28 years. He's a retired colonel, decorated with the Medal of Honor for 25 years of outstanding service. Very difficult to accuse us of separatism. Over the course of the past year, in addition to the permanent worry linked to the judicial process, we have been required to draft approximately 500 pages of documentation between our requests for authorization, court filings, examinations, communications with the Department of Education and other governmental entities. We have been in the Court of Suspension and the Court of the Administrative Court. Both courts ruled against us. Our family is currently awaiting trial in France in the appeals court with the support of Liberté d'Éducation and HSLDA. Thank you very much. 1 month ago, my husband was summoned to the police station where he was interrogated for 3 hours, fingerprinted, had his mugshot taken, and charged with the refusal to comply with the obligation to register a child in school. And as I previously mentioned 2 days ago, my 10-year-old son was also summoned and interrogated for an hour and a half by the police. I'll conclude there, but thank you very much for this opportunity to share it with you. Thank you for your support, and please don't hesitate to address me later.
Good evening, everybody. I am Juhani Paavolaine from Finnish Home Educators Association. We have here a brave Finnish family. They are standing up for the rights of homeschoolers. They are at the moment at the court fighting for their rights, and I asked them to hand out the paper I'm going to present. I have it here in the... It's correct, yes. Yes, thank you. Yeah, you... I don't know if Portugal or Italy have done the best thing so far, but you maybe heard that the Finns are the most happy country in the world, or people in the world, and Do you know why? Because they have Christmas every day. And I, to remind it, I wear my socks with Santa. And it's really great to be here, and I feel it's a present. But I wanted to make some remarks of our recent school law change. The education age was raised with 2 years up to 18 years. And the Parliament proposal was such that as the Parliament had experts, law experts, they were the best constitutional law experts in Finland, and they put up an idea that this is not a constitutional matter. And but what the Finnish constitution says is that it is the constitutional committee that decides on the constitutional matters and human rights. We don't have a constitutional court, but it's basically it's a political organ, part of the parliament. But as the professors found they found it more or less that because they are the experts to the committee, they are the ones who interpret the constitution. And the professors introduced that in Finland the constitution is a living document, and you don't have to change the constitution, but you can alter it without changing the word. But this raised much opposition among the ombudsman of the parliament and the Ministry of Law. And they both, what was interesting was that they both referred to an European Human Rights Court case, Ponorimovi, I don't know if I pronounced it right, against Bulgaria. And in Bulgarian constitution, it's pretty much similar to the Finnish constitution, that everyone has right to basic education, and basic education is free. Now the question was that now when education is raised in Finland, is this going to be free, or can the government charge of this education? So in this case, what the parliamentary ombudsman, the Ministry of Justice were referring to, the court, Human Rights Court, said that it's not in itself a matter to judge what kind of what the government offers, but you must not discriminate. And the parliamentary ombudsman said that you have no right to limit a group of people out of the benefits. And the Ministry of Justice said exactly the same. When compulsory education is expanded, everyone's right to free education expanded. So at the end, the Parliamentary Constitutional Law Committee did not let the professor to decide. They referred to old constitution and that there is nothing that should be assessed. And you cannot interpret the constitution as far as education is concerned. Thank you.
Yes, that's right. I'm Jonathan Neus from Germany and working for this federal organization for freedom in education. Talking about education, homeschooling in Germany. It's forbidden in Germany. There's no possibility for home education in Germany legally. If you do so, you get fined, or rare but possible, your kids get a ride to school by the police. And thankfully, of a result of several success by our board member, Dr. Andreas Vogt, he's a lawyer, and he won some higher court cases in family law. So that's not really a threat anymore in Germany right now to get to lose custody just because of a homeschooling. That's him. What are we doing in Germany in order to do homeschoolings? Well, some people are under the radar. They're just getting forgotten. But most of the people, they go officially outside the country as a traveling family, or they even really go out of the country and live in France or in Denmark or wherever and work in Germany. Why is the situation like that in Germany? Well, that's part of it is tradition. Germany is the founder of compulsory schooling, and there's compulsory schooling already more than 300 years in Germany. And without any absolutely compulsory schooling about 100 years. So no German knows what homeschooling is about. It's just strange and unknown. And part of it is ignorance, especially bureaucrats as self-proclaimed elites in decision-making roles. And they tell you, such people could get me going. They know everything, and especially better. And you might know these people too. And some of the background is the Germans, most of part of the Germans feel best when everything is in proper order, when everything is standardized. And I would have almost said also the society is kind of standardized. If you do something else, you're weird. You're just out of the society. What has been tried in the past? Of course, we tried court cases, but failed. Lobbying, we still do. Marketing, we still do. But is there no hope? For myself, I think homeschooling as a free homeschooling like you do in America or Canada or so on, will not be possible in the next decade in Germany. It's just too unfamiliar. It's just too wide, far away. The gap is too far for the society. So we need a solution that fits the German people. And one of the solutions is, of course, private schools. Private schools have a lot of freedom in Germany. The pedagogy cannot be regulated in private schools as long as the result of the education they provide is equivalent to that of public schools. So that's maybe the door to go in. And therefore, our approach has been to design a private school with a large home education component. And that's what we're doing already 12 years now in South Germany. For example, we have compulsory school attendance for only one day of the week. And for the other days, they are free and can do it from home. And that's kind of hybrid learning, right? And the results exceed equivalent, at least. We think the advantage of this model is it fits to the German school system of regulate and oversee the school education. The government does not have to develop any new structures or put any new regulations into place. No laws need to be changed. Unfortunately, there has been no approval to date. Higher courts do not want to make a decision about this concept and have not accepted our complaint. However, we are preparing to the next round. Thank you.
Hi, that's Deborah Luthoff, homeschooling in Switzerland. So yeah, homeschooling in Switzerland is a little bit special. We're like a mini Europe in Europe because we're a tiny country in the center of Europe, actually not part of the European Union, for those of you who don't know. We're a little bit on the British side on that, I suppose. We have a tiny population, so we're not part of the EU, and we have been a democracy as a country since 1291. So that's 500 years before the French Revolution, before, you know, certain Christopher Columbus discovered stuff. And that went really fast, so I'm gonna go back. We have 4 official languages in Switzerland. We have 2 official religions, 26 cantons, and 23 different homeschool legislations. So I am not going to bore you today with every single one of them, but know that in 3 cantons you are not allowed to homeschool at all, it's illegal. And in some cantons we have almost 1% of the population that is homeschool. Kids are running around outside, going to museums and things during the day, and everybody's quite happy to have them there. As an example, my daughter is turning 20 on the 15th. When she was a child, she would be regularly asked why she was not at school. Her little sister, who is 9, has never been asked that question. It's just normal. It's the third option possible in Switzerland. The cantons that we have been the most successful with homeschooling have this one thing, I suppose, in particular, where there is a lot of us homeschooling, and therefore we have very active groups that do that. So I'm not going to bore you with the numbers. We had, as a Swiss average, we had 0.38% of homeschooling kids 21 to 22, knowing that some cantons actually don't homeschool at all. And we've gone to 0.40 for last year's official numbers, and now we're about 4,500 students that I can't really prove. We have a lot of French refugees that are coming up. So yeah, I have a lot of French calling me going, how does it work if I want to come to? We're part of Vaud. That particular canton is actually starting to become a refugee zone for homeschoolers for a lot of places. We're actually starting to call that in the invasion of the invasion des réfugiés politiques de l'école. And yeah, so in active cantons, it's really cool because we have so much going on that it's really fun. You can meet up, you can go to museums, we have teenage groups, we have camps, art classes, you know, disability support groups, co-ops, whatever. And I think the one thing that is very different in Switzerland that I'm hearing from a lot of other places, we actually work together with the states. So we regularly go see them, we sit down, we go, okay, you wrote that letter to the families, it's really stressful for them because they hear that and they understand. As homeschoolers, we get touchy. Oh, we didn't mean that. How can we rephrase it? I have parents who were called by directors of schools because the director didn't know that homeschooling was possible and convinced them that they had to come in and he would school them. They call me and I call a friend at the office and I go, and then by the time the parents show up on Monday, 9 o'clock at the office, the phone rings and they go, says, okay, ma'am, you can go, please have a nice day. So that's how good it works. And I think if in the countries where you can have this thing with your governments, please try and keep that going because they are afraid that we are destroying our children, and the thing you have to do is actually have them see kids that that homeschool and that are healthy. So this is my son with the president of Switzerland because since he's a member of the youth council, he has time to meet the president of Switzerland. Some of our best apprentices are homeschoolers as well. That was first prize and second prize in patisserie last year. These are some of our kids meeting with politicians in Switzerland. That's another picture of my son, my daughter, and 2 other homeschoolers with the president of Switzerland, Swiss camp for kids, and so on. So, yeah, if you don't want to go to Portugal, you can come to Switzerland. Because it's in the Vaud Constitution, family and and choice of education is in the Constitution since 1803. So.
Yeah, the presentation is good. Okay. So my name is Marius Dzieciatko. I'm from Poland. Sorry, because switch off. I am the president of the Association for Education in the Family, one of the Polish NGOs supporting home education. The association was established in 2007 to work on improving the law, increasing the recognition of home education, and supporting Polish families and umbrella school. Home education is fully legal in Poland since 1991, after the short break after communist time, because it was prohibited in 1956. But I think the home educations are in Poles' hearts, because home education survived our nation in the dark time with our neighbors. Okay, but it's fully legal, but it's highly regulated. So each child must be enrolled in school and obtain permission from the school principal for home education. We can choose any school for this, for public or private. Parents must write 3 documents: application for home education, declaration of providing learning condition, and declaration of taking exams every year. You can apply for home education at any time during the school year, so starting home education is not too complicated. A few more details about the formal side of home education in Poland. Exams are held once a year in almost all subjects. Exam consists of 2 parts, written and oral. We can choose when we want to pass the exams, and with just few numbers. So in the first class of secondary school, we have 12 subjects multiplied by 2, so it's 24 exams. Okay, the exams are based on the national core curriculum. Failure to pass the exam result in return to school. Children receive normal certificates, the same as the school students, and a school ID. Schools receive state funding for home-educated children, and this is some problems with this. I will talk about this later. Schools offer various forms of support for parents, including workshops, consultation, e-learning platforms. The challenges we have: unstable educational law. We have at least 1 change in each term. Allegation of financial abuse in school. So this is one of the problems with the funding. From one side, this is good. The school have the funding for home education. But from another side, we have a few schools that try to go around the law and spend money not in the proper way. And this is the problem from the political point of view. Another one is the large concentration of home education children in one school. We have one school that now I think have almost 25,000 children, so it's almost half of the Polish population, homeschooler population. I think it's the Guinness record. And another challenge is the problematic relations with local governments, of course, because of the funding. But we are still growing very fast. As today, according to the official data, over 51,000 children study at home, which constitutes approximately 1.1% of the entry Polish student population. We know that our government is currently working on some new restrictions. We don't know what it is, so we will see. We will still need to monitor the situation and what is on the table. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Monica O'Connor from Ireland. I don't have a presentation for slides. So Bunreacht na hÉireann is the basic law in Ireland. It's the constitution. It says in Article 42, the state acknowledges that the primary and natural educator of the child is the family and guarantees to respect the inalienable right and duty of parents to provide according to their means for the religious and moral, intellectual, physical and social education of their children. So that would seem pretty clear. And that has been the Constitution of Ireland since 1937. And when my first three children were born in 86, 93 and 95, the Constitution, as far as I was concerned, was a safety blanket if if my extended family thought it was strange and unusual, and they did, but were kind enough not to torment my kids about that. But since 2000, the Education Welfare Act requires families to apply for assessment to be added to a register of people receiving education in places other than a recognised school. And many of us see this as a flawed process because as each child in your family turns 6, parents are supposed to fill out a fresh application form. And you could have already had some of your children or the education provision for some of your children assessed, but there seems to be a higher level of scrutiny on parents. For instance, if you are a Steiner or a Sudbury or some kind of non-state school in Ireland, you don't have to have the education provision for each child assessed. You just pick one child. If you have an enrolment of 10 or 30 or 50 children, one child's educational provision is assessed and therefore the school is recognised. To give you some context, the current figures in Ireland, according to the part of the TUSLA, the AIRS that regulates or registers children between the ages of 6 and 16, there are 2,455 children on the register, but there are 1,062 awaiting assessment. There's been a big backlog with families waiting as long as 2 years to be assessed. We were asked to talk about our challenges, legal and social and cultural, but the saddest stories I hear, and I've been active in supporting families for a long time, parents are separated and usually the non-custodial parent will insist on school attendance. In this case, the Child and Family Agency, TUSLA AIRS, insist that they need the signature of both parents to proceed with the assessing a home education application. And if one parent, usually non-custodial, refuses to sign the application form, the child is supposed to attend school. That seems very unfair and inequitable to a lot of us, that you don't get your constitutional right if your parents disagree. One mother said to me recently, it's extremely inequitable in cases where a child has additional needs which make going to school impossible for them. The main parent is being treated as if they're just intentionally not complying with the law. So if parents, she says ominously, if parents don't agree, the government gets your children. The other challenges that people tell us about is that when the authorised person comes to do the assessment in your house, sometimes they will overstep their remit. They are not allowed, they're not to assess the child, they are to assess what the adult is providing or intending to provide. Sometimes authorised persons will ask a child to read to them. They might quiz them on a maths question. That is absolutely not in the guidelines. And there have been 1 or 2 instances of an authorised person asking a child, can I look in your bedroom? So that would be reported, and Lulu Sinnott is here with us today. She is the liaison person between the largest group that supports home educators in Ireland, the Home Education Network. I'm the local contact in my county of Carlow. And so those things are reported, and then, she would go back to them and say, this has been happening, and hopefully they will. Sometimes parents actually have been supported or encouraged to maybe, or have just decided on their own that I'm not having that person assess my family. And in the last couple of years, when people weren't doing a lot of face-to-face stuff, a lot of the assessments were taking place by phone or over Zoom. A lot of families were comfortable and happy with that. That is now being refused to parents who are requesting it. So I suppose, conclude with some of the comments that parents, when I said, what are your challenges? And people said, accessing state exams is something that some people would like to be able to do. Some people feel it's necessary. A lot of us have got around it by, there are local colleges where some of us can get our kids in at age 16, depending on our degree of diplomacy with a local principal of a school or a college, and our kids have access to university degrees like that. But what has happened in Ireland, probably to the betterment of some children in the education system, is that written exams have now got more of a project component. A project component is supposed to be completed under the supervision of a registered teacher. If a teacher in a school won't sign off on a kid's history project, they can't take history for their leaving certificate exam when they're 17 or 18 and use that as the basis of college entry. So those are some of our challenges, but I am around for the couple of days, so if you want to chat to me more later, that'd be great. Thanks a million.
It should be Ukraine. So I'll start. Hello, everyone. My name is Oksana and I represent the Ukrainian homeschooling community. Alongside my dear friends, we co-founded the Ukrainian National Association of Home Education a year ago, and we recently celebrated our first anniversary. So we are a baby community in Europe. And I would like to start with the phrase, I don't know who said it and was the first one to say. So wars are begun by politicians, conducted by military, and ended by teachers, and I would say by parents. Let me share my story. So, no presentation, sorry. Let's go back to the earlier years prior to Ukraine gaining independence in 1991. Public schools were considered the sole method to educate future generations, often serving as a tool of propaganda, while Ukrainian language and culture were suppressed or even forbidden. After 1991, the school system was democratized, yet many older teachers continued to employ traditional or old methods. I won't delve deeply into that, but it's noteworthy that new educational options emerged, including private schools alongside state institutions. Despite these changes, the concept of home education was scarcely considered. The belief that only the government could properly raise new generations had been ingrained over decades. Freedom and democracy were unfamiliar and perhaps daunting ideas. It's interesting, during the USSR era, there was a clear vision for educating future generations. However, after Ukraine gained independence, although values and goals shifted, the educational system and its workforce largely remained unchanged, resulting in a lack of clear vision. This sets the background for discussing home education. Our movement remained underground and unofficial until 2018. Although small, they were parents who foresaw a different educational path for their children, particularly during the transitional period of Ukraine's history. Home education was permitted under limited circumstances, and as we saw here in many countries, it was the same. Such as health issues or unique family lifestyles often tied to parents' professions. In 2014, Russia's invasion and occupation of eastern territories prompted the Ministry of Education to introduce provisions allowing parents from these areas to homeschool their children. This spurred interest among parents in other regions, leading to a new law in 2018 granting all Ukrainian parents the right to educate their children at home. We initially connected through Facebook groups, homeschoolers from different parts of Ukraine. We shared our experiences online and occasionally met in person, sometimes traveling hundreds of miles. These meetings were always a joyous occasion. In 2019, we planned our first national conference, but unfortunately the pandemic disrupted our plans. Nevertheless, it sparked the idea to establish the Ukrainian National Association of Home Education. During the lockdowns, while some parents struggled, others found that they enjoyed having children learn at home. The number of children who did not return to school was not officially counted, but in my city of Kharkiv, I observed an increasing number of families seeking alternative education. According to some estimates, there were between 4,000 to 10,000 homeschoolers. In February 2024, a full-scale invasion occurred. Schools were non-operational for several days, prompting a swift return to online education. Unfortunately, not all schools survived those turbulent times. More than 2 million children were evacuated or moved out of the country. And in my city, Department of Education says that there are 37,000 school children in Kharkiv, which accounts 32% of the total number. In some areas, only distance learning remains available. I would like to share an excerpt, a piece of interview with Vasil, an 8th grader boy from school. When the electricity was cut off, I attended online lessons from my phone. It's very inconvenient because the phone can disconnect at any moment or there is no internet. Sometimes my eyes hurt. It's very difficult. Vasil shares his experience. Last spring, he hid in a closet during air raids. The Department of Education has begun counting homeschoolers since war began. And now they say it's more than 90,000 total in the country. Some of these students live in and study abroad, while others remain in Ukraine. We established our public organization a year ago, and we have a lot of work ahead. And we had an opportunity to meet with Minister of Education. So there are only 5 people in our association, and we would be really happy to have any ideas, support, advice from you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Oksana. We've heard a whole spectrum, haven't we? But we know what communism is. And my wife grew up, under the Stasi in East Germany. We don't want to go anywhere near that again. And we know a little bit about totalitarianism in this room. So thank you very much. What I'd like is for all our presenters to stand up, and if they could turn to you and give them a good round of applause. And thank you so much.